It's another Manly Monday, and this Manly Monday, as promised, we're talking about brokenness and, the idea, am I too broken for a relationship? And, am I too broken to have, am I too broken? And I'm putting this on Manly Monday because I do think there's a specific niche here that I can target, because if I open it up to just everyone, it doesn't get into the specificity of how gender norms and gender ideals and gendered kind of toxic romanticism all intertwine to hit men in a unique way this way. And this is reductive, but essentially what I'm going to examine here is that when a woman is broken and helpless, the idea is save her. When a man is broken, he's dangerous, and so we need to fix him. And both are bad in their own ways. Needing help and being saved from yourself, not the same thing. But being fixed by another person isn't much better, if it's better at all. And that's what we're going to get into, the sort of how to navigate this stuff to reframe it so that you can have healthy relationships while still, negotiating that man box. Ultimately, I'd like to tear down the man box. The reason I use the thumbnail I do for Manly Monday, Eileen did it, it's great, because it's like Solomon, social justice warrior, and then looking in the mirror, kind of that fight with, because the whole deal with Solomon is he was trying so hard to be a warrior, the social justice warrior, but he really wants to be a sidekick, and that's why him and Princess Sparkle Muffin work. And using Solomon to explore the man box is so much fun. I have a soft spot for him as a character. And enough, more on the game later. Nightshade's out, yay. But let's do the help support this channel. Help support this channel, become a monthly patron. If you like content like this, please support it. Patreon.com/LeannaK, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it. Coffee.com/LeannaK. Directly support people working through this sense that they're broken. Or you can kick, if you don't want a Discord invite, if you just want to kick some money one time, to support our various and sundry things until we find another way that's better than GoFundMe, you can use the GoFundMe. Because I've seen this pattern with men who feel broken, where it's a cycle of feel broken, get into a relationship with a woman who is determined to fix him. You can't fix a person. That's why I don't like the term broken. You can support a person, you can advise a person, you can help a person heal. People are not objects. You can't fix them. The healing ultimately must be driven from within. And, I say this as somebody who is a peer counselor. I went through this. Okay? This is the reason I coach artists and I do work, with other people with a trauma diagnosis, because this is the shit I didn't have. I was convinced by various factors that I was broken and needed fixing. And as long as I had that mindset, I kept getting worse and fucking up. It wasn't until I realized I don't need fixing. I just have to stop trying to tank with 0 hit points left. And that's not broke. That's a feature, not a bug. even tanks in games, they may have more hit points than other people, but they don't have unlimited hit points. They can still take damage. And, we don't say, oh, they're broken. We say they're dead, right? Or they need to be revived. And yes, those first few steps do require support from people around you. Those early things when you're going from like knocked down to kind of shaky, finding your legs again, those are really, really hard. Once you get past a certain threshold where you're sort of in the maintenance phase of recovering from trauma, you still need supports, but it's not as intense. That's the good news. It's ultimately up to you, though. And I find that I'm broken leads to I need to be fixed. I need it to be fixed means you fall for fixers who, a lot of men self-identify as fixers. But the problem in romantic relationships, and this does go both ways, but it, like I said, it manifests differently. When women try to fix their man, or anybody tries to fix people with more man brain, that leads to the increased feelings of inadequacy, that feeling of shame that you're not a real man because you need all this help. And we have this really toxic idea of a go it alone shogun thing. And think about the number of Shogun movies where the character dies eventually, right? That was the really cool inversion in Godzilla -1. If you haven't seen that movie, it is amazing. They're coming out with a black and white re-release. I kind of want to go see it again in theaters. I love that movie because that's a character who is disgraced and ashamed, and he shoves everybody away because he just feels, broken leads into this useless thing. You get all the worthlessness insults. And that's why it's really important to use tools like the feelings wheel. Because broken is usually not on a feelings wheel. I'm going to pull up our feelings wheel. And here we go. Hopefully you will not get Telegram pop-ups during this. But, so broken, betrayed, resentful, ridiculed, violated. Violated is different than broken. Withdrawn, numb, inferior, empty, ashamed, powerless, fragile. Fragile is not broken. Victimized, abandoned, overwhelmed, out of control. These are all feelings. Broken is not a feeling. Broken is a judgment. What's the difference between a feeling and a judgment? Well, a feeling, if someone says, I feel sad, and someone goes, no, you don't. Well, that's not supportive. But when someone says, I feel broken, and someone says, no, you aren't, that's arguing something based on facts. Because other people don't see the inner turmoil, the inner suffering. They see that you're sad, they see that you're withdrawn, but they also see, your brilliance. They see your creativity. They see your sensitivity as a good thing. They see, your sincere caring for other people, which is why you're withdrawing, because you feel broken. And one of the things I find does make men feel broken that isn't as common in women is the feeling like they can't tell anybody what's going on, right? And that's where people like me come in, because if you tell a therapist, they're like, why do you feel that way? Or how do you feel about that? And whereas I'm like, yeah, I remember what that was like. And that's the difference, right? I don't have to be detached. And so someone like me can go, yep, I hear you, man. It's a real feeling. Now, I'm going to tell you why it's your brain lying to you. And hello? Cat just yelled at me. Because when you're traumatized, your brain does lie. And trauma doesn't mean broken. The reason you feel broken is that your brain is going, stay down. Stop getting into fights. You keep losing. Your brain is not designed to make you thrive. Your brain is designed to keep you safe. And if you are continuing to try to tank with, one hit point, your brain is going to go stay down, And that's your brain functioning as intended. It's not broken. The only way you can say something's broken is if you are having breaks from reality. Psychosis is obviously a problem. Dissociation is, again, how the brain is intended to work in intense circumstances. I'm a feel bad about it later person. And that's the thing. The reason first responders and, all the badass jobs struggle with trauma, soldiers, cops, firefighters, all that stuff, struggle with this stuff so much is they're all, that either feel bad about it later, and then they're shut down every time they try to feel bad about it by people trying to fix them. Or, there's a box in my head and I put the bad thoughts and feelings in the box, and then I close the box and I never look at it again. They actually use that dialogue in Our Flag Means Death. I was thrilled to see that. Because that is a short-term solution. Eventually the box gets too full and it fails. Trust me. And I worked a lot of jobs where feel bad about it later is an essential skill. Because you're in public, you can't crack there. It does get to be too much. It is tanking, and everybody has a limited number of hit points. And changing your relationship with that limited number of hit points is essential to feeling more empowered, less overwhelmed, less afraid. And I'm trying to use feelings words instead of judgment words. Less hopeless, less despairing. I am enough. Feeling enough is a judgment, but feelings of inadequacy are very real. And so the judgments you're making, the expectations you're setting that lead to the judgments that you're broken, you're not enough, so on and so forth. Those you have some control over. Your feelings directly, not so much. If you feel sad, that's valid. If you feel angry, that's valid. If you feel happy, that's valid too. A lot of people invalidate their happiness because they feel like they don't deserve it. I don't deserve it, judgment. I feel happy, feeling. Separating the feelings from the judgments, very, very important. INT/FJ here, very strong on the judgments, had to learn that. Life much improved when I learned to separate thoughts from feelings from judgments, which is why I'm such a stickler between I think and I feel. Because I can judge that I'm being too sensitive, right? I can think that a person is totally within their rights to tell me something. but I still feel hurt. See how that works? All 3 sentences are true. I can choose, however, to take away the judgment of I'm being too sensitive. That is how building back from thinking you're broken works. Because if you don't, you end up with partners that try to make you better, that try to fix you, that try to solve for the problem that is you. And you start getting a lot of well-meaning things that are actually gaslighting and perhaps manipulation. You know, I work with a lot of guys who feel like their mental health challenges are problems. And if it's, if it's disrupting your life, if you're, if you aren't satisfied with what you're getting and you think it is something internal, that's completely fair. It's always good to want better. That's great. It's not good to feel like you're the problem, and you're the problem is a very close cousin of you're broken. And if you think you are broken, if you think you lack worth, you are going to attract people that are going to echo that message, usually unintentionally. And that's another thing that I am a real stickler on. Behavior versus, feelings. Someone can't help having anxiety. Someone can't help having depression. I can't control having trauma brain. I can't. I didn't ask for it. It's a reality. It's not a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just a thing. I can be aware of how my brain works so that I don't react in overt trauma responses. I can mitigate that. And then I can be gentle with myself when I was pushed too far, everything failed, and I ended up with a tank with 0 hit points. All that is within my control. Changing the inner workings of how my brain works, trying to do things in a way that wasn't right for me, trying to be someone I was not because I felt broken, was part of the reason I ended up so very traumatized. It wasn't the original trauma, but it definitely fed into that complex or compounded trauma, which, yes, is not in the DSM. It's a colloquial term we use because complex trauma is way trickier to treat than a simple trauma. You almost died. We can work through that. It's scary. You're having trouble getting back into your regular routine. That's obviously not the same as a lifetime pattern of abuse that you have to untangle. And a lot of people think when they hear, I've got, this has been an issue since I was a child, it's hopeless. That's one of the issues with the psychodynamic approach that's having a bit of a resurgence right now. And this is why I am more open about my own stuff in public, because just because it started in childhood doesn't mean it's hopeless. It does not mean you're broken. It means that the rule book we're handed is not the same as core rules, right? You're playing life on hard mode. It doesn't mean you're broken. It just means you have to be a better player, and that's possible, right? That's a hell of a lot better narrative to tell yourself than broken. Because if you apply the whole life on hard mode, it's like, well, yeah, I just get good. We know that. We're gamers, right? And that means you need to look for a partner who, not you need, but ideally, if you do not feel ready for a relationship, do not feel pressure to be in a relationship. Get into a relationship because you want to have a relationship with that person, because you care about that person, not because of ego or about what you think it means, or to try to alleviate your loneliness, or for someone to fix you. Those are all bad reasons to get into a relationship. Getting into a relationship, any relationship, friendship or romantically, is I like you, you like me, let's be this thing. It really is that simple. When you have all these societal pressures and, social comparisons and all that stuff, and it's impossible to completely turn off social comparisons. So you have to just understand them for what they are, right? That bad feeling you get when you go on Facebook and see, oh, all my friends seem to be doing so well, and here I am miserable. That's an upward social comparison. And it's bad for mental health. We know that. And that, being able to be with a group of people who focus on what you are good at while supporting you through the stuff you struggle with. That is the goal. And you are not going to get that from a partner that's trying to fix you. Because think about it. When your partner is trying to fix you, instead of understand and support you, they are sending you the message that you're not good enough as you are. And that is toxic for relationships. And we know, and this is why this is on Manly Monday, women know that put downs from men are abusive. But as much as we say that, a partner that puts you down, whoever it is a problem, we normalize it in media. God, the show is called Wanda Vision, but it's the Wanda show. Vision is the butt of jokes and an object for her to control and violate because she is in pain. Vision is a machine. And my fundamental issue with the way they handled the Wanda Vision relationship, it's adorable in the comics because they didn't have to explain it. It was just a goofy thing back in the 60s. But the way they handled it in the MCU, the entire appeal of Vision, I ended up feeling, was that she doesn't have to treat him like a person. He's a synthezoid. He's not actually human, so she can treat him like a puppet because she can't deal with her pain. She can't deal with her trauma. And that is what happens when you get a woman who has her own trauma. And, the original connection is that trauma bond. And because it only feels temporarily good, the minute that honeymoon phase ends, she tries to fix you because she's not getting her fix. It's the long-term phase of a relationship, which is much like, the hormone spike, not like sex hormones, like the good brain chemicals of closeness, all that stuff. The big surge ends and the bad feeling comes back. And because the love is supposed to take it all away and it doesn't, well, there must be something wrong with your love. And with men, it's more, the language is support. You're supposed to support me. You're supposed to support me. I spent the weekend observing the Christian men posturing all over the internet, praising the nuclear family and all this stuff. And these guys are clearly miserable because they were ganging up on my friend for being a furry. And we were amused, but I played the bad cop because you're gonna come at it with ego, bruh. We're gonna play the ego game. And I'm gonna poke at that because what you're doing is just fucking wrong. You're clearly not happy and you're looking for people to pick on because your trad illusion isn't working out for you. You know, if you go through these guys' timelines, their wives are miserable and lonely and craving socialization. And here are these fuckheads fighting with strangers on the internet. Gee, I wonder what's going on there. And no one person can be everything. We romanticize that, but it's just long term. They can be your favorite person, but they can't be your only source of support. And the shame isolates men in particular so much that the romantic partner ends up having to do more. Then they're tanking with not enough hit points. And these toxic expectations we have for relationships are something we can do something about. But also how you go in. If you go in with the self-image that you are broken, yeah, it's probably going to affect the relationship. If you can shift that idea of being broken to any other metaphor that isn't quite so negative judgment, like out of commission, playing life on hard mode, tanking with not enough hit points, something like that, that is manageable. We can create a structure and now we can set boundaries. If you go in broken, setting boundaries is very, very difficult because that speaks to intense feelings of unworthiness, of inadequacy. You are not enough. And so you're going to be a combination of a posturing dick and really, really open to abuse. Because, you know, after a while, everybody's trying to pull from a dry well. And yeah, you're not enough. Yeah, you did let me down. Yeah, you get all those things you're afraid of. And you're not going to feel strong because relationships are vulnerable. And we have really shitty signposting for men navigating vulnerability. And that's what this comes down to, right? If you've got a non-romantic group of support, you know, even if it's just one person that you can talk things out with, then you can go into a relationship not feeling broken because, you know, you don't have to hide from the world. But if you're not telling your friends what's going on with you and you're expecting to get into a relationship and not just get way overwhelmed, yeah, that's not going to work. And another thing that can cause a feeling of brokenness is not feeling like you can trust anyone. And I don't like calling it trust issues because the issue is often the world, people have proven to you that they are not trustworthy. Trust is earned. And you know, building trust with someone is a process. And, you know, you try it. Okay, that worked. You try a bit more. You try a bit more. And just because you can't tell a particular friend everything doesn't mean they're a bad friend. I mean, I saw a funny meme about, you know, Mark Hamill talking about how you couldn't tell Carrie Fisher anything because she just had no filter. Because, I mean, she was bipolar, right? She came by that honestly. But that doesn't mean she wasn't a great person. She just wasn't good at that. No person can be absolutely everything to you. And that's good. You know, that's why we have superhero teams. And for some odd reason, we've got it in our heads that we're doing something wrong if we need that support system. When that is how humans are designed. We are a cooperative species. That's why we have a part in our brain that obsesses with how we fit into our social world. That's what it's there for. And those connections can break. Those can sever. And that, you know, that might be where to start. Find somebody you can trust. And, you know, that is what therapy does for some people. It doesn't work for everybody. You know, finding a therapist with the right fit is essential. And if what you really need is somebody who's been through it, that's where somebody like me comes in, as opposed to, you know, a professional who can diagnose things and prescribe things and has access to certain, you know, it opens up resources and funding and all that stuff. Both exist for a reason. I increasingly have less interest in doing that kind of work. I found my spot. And it can be a game changer to just feel like someone gets it. Because that's when you realize you're not broken. You're low on hit points or you're playing on hard mode. And when you realize that, then you can start playing strategically. What do you do when you're low on hit points? You find healing, right? You find a healer. We know that in games. What do you do when you're playing on hard mode? Well, you play more cautiously and take fewer fucking hits, because every single one, hits harder, right? It causes a lot more damage than when you're playing on easy mode. The enemies are tougher, they're smarter, they will take you down faster. Play accordingly. That's a much better metaphor for what you're dealing with. And it just sounds much cooler. I like it when it sounds cooler and it's more accurate. And that was how I stopped feeling broken. And feeling broken did cost me some relationships with some people that were cool people. And they don't want to talk to me, and that's fine. You know? I mean, you know, it's not fine. They're good people, my loss, but I accept responsibility for that. You know, I didn't treat people terribly great back then. They're allowed to have legitimate feelings about that. That was my process. And do I grieve the years I lost, the decade I burned, because I didn't have somebody like me telling me this stuff? Yeah, I grieve that. That's a loss that I do feel sad about. But I feel sad for a bit, and then, you know, okay, I've had my time. Go on, let's do something active. Let's find a hill, because we were just in a valley. And that's the things you can do with someone who gets it. And then, you know, when you do get into a relationship, first of all, if you've got a group of friends who know you, they can tell you when some things, they see changes in you that aren't good. You know, they're your early warning system against being taken advantage of and abused. And then if it doesn't work out as well, you know, you're not alone. You can go back and you know, piece it all together. But anybody who insists you need to get fixed, yeah, there's a reason that sounds like going to the vet to get your balls cut off, right? Right? Am I wrong? No, I'm not wrong. Support, yes. Strategies, yes. Something's not working, yes. But fixed? People approach it that way because it feels like they're more in control. And that may not necessarily be the best person for someone with trauma, because trauma, especially complex trauma, it's a lifelong narrative. It's never just going to not be there. And that's not a bad thing, because what we used to call that was wisdom. And we've medicalized it and we've pathologized it. And we've lost things with that. And I'll leave that there. Interested in your comments if you want more on a specific detail of this, because this is a big topic. Leave a comment. Please let me know. Or say it on Discord if you are a member. If you want to join our Discord, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it, coffee.com/LeannaK. Those are the two things that get you Discord invites the first week-ish of every month. Patreon processes on the 3rd. I get it on the 5th. The GoFundMe, if you just want to kick a few bucks, don't need a Discord invite. We always appreciate the support. Thanks for watching Manly Mondays.